you and I know that halving doubles your cost overnight. And a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah, the game theory is just it's there's like we said, so many rabbit holes to go down, but like this game theory was just so expertly designed by Satoshi. Yeah. And there was so much if you go back and read a lot of the old forum posts, I mean, you'll just see the discussions of all this. Like
I learned this from those forum posts because it was Satoshi's one post where he said that the cost of production tends to go down over time. But with Bitcoin, as the price goes up, the cost of production goes up. And now you talk about free market economics where the cost of production is the cost to access the value proposition of the good or the service. So if you and I start a business and we say, for this service, you have to pay $1,000. And people say, well, I'm not getting $1,000 worth of value. I'm not paying that. That's the free market telling us there's no demand here. But for Bitcoin, the cost continues to go up through its design. Therefore, the network itself is demanding more from you to get its value. So it literally has the ability to raise its own floor price. That still baffles my mind. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, this is Satoshi had many posts about this. It's fascinating. I mean, there's so many rabbit holes. Like, so when we talk about the halving, all of what you said is true. What are your thoughts over time as the halving becomes less and less impactful supply-wise, right? Because every year it's less of the overall supply, and as fees change over time, have you figured out a way to model in fees in the BFV over time, like miner fees, transaction fees? Because that, from my understanding, is the network has grown over time, and those fees have gone up some.
Yeah. So the security budget discussion is a very important discussion for everybody to have, and I think what happened with Runes post this 2024 halving was interesting because we saw fees were actually larger than the block reward.
Yeah, that's wild. Very briefly, but wild.
Briefly, yeah.
Saw that when I was mining Ethereum.
You saw when that demand is there.
Yeah.
The fees can move up rather quickly. So I think the potential for that demand for settlement will eventually create those fees. But then the other thing I think about is that a lot of people use that argument to say that it's not important enough to play a role in price discovery. But the thing is that miners are forced sellers, right? Do you want to sell any of your Bitcoin?
I don't want to, but you got to pay the bills, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the forced price is at the margin. Whose margin? The people who have to pay the cost. Because when you buy Bitcoin, or at least when I buy Bitcoin, that's locked up. That's not getting sold no matter what. At all. Like there's so many Gresham's law, right? There's so many other assets on my balance sheet that I'm going to let go before I let go of that money.
Yeah, you want
that's
to
the last
spend
thing.
Your USD, spend whatever else.
That stays in the family forever.
Yeah,
that's my mindset. I'm not forced to sell it ever. However, miners are forced to sell. So the price is discovered at their margin, and they have to ask for a price above the cost. So this just comes back to free market price. I think this is what happens in our education system. We don't understand the basics of prices.
Well, they don't even, again, if you watch my first 10-episode series was with Aaron Van Weerdum, who's the chief editor of Bitcoin Mag, and we're talking about his book, right? And talks a lot about Austrian economics and spontaneous order, prices, all of these different, Austrian economic principles that you just don't learn this at school, right? They don't want to teach you that at school. You learn about, Milton Friedman's acceptable. Like
the price is what I say it is.
The price is what I say it is. You learn about Keynesian economics. You learn about Milton Friedman and his version of free market, right? Which everything can be a free market except money in his version. Like that's an acceptable, school of thought.
Yeah, it's just wild to see. But the fact is that this is how it works, and the people who use BFV and follow along with it, I mean, they'll testify to that truth. That this is really we are trading in a commodity cycle. But I have to say, I do think this is going to be less and less relevant. I really do, and that's part of the reason that we open sourced it. You see a lot of people in the industry who like sell indicators and stuff like that and try to make money from it, but it's probably because they never actually made money with their own damn indicator. Right? The people who actually make money with it, what we found out was that, hey, you know what? When Bitcoin becomes monetized, we're not going to be in a commodity cycle anymore. The perpetual base layer of demand on Bitcoin will nullify cost of production. And hash rate will have to catch up to price. Right now, price has to catch up to hash rate. When that flips and hash rate has to catch up with the price, we're in the monetization of Bitcoin. And I think that's what's coming. And we're no longer going to trade at it's that suddenly part, right?
So I'm in a good business then.
I think you're probably in the best business in the world. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. I mean,
if you can make it through, if you can fight through the commodity cycles with proper management.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you have to be able to, you got to have, again, I've had a lot of experience over, multiple cycles. You learn these things, right? And the trick is staying alive in the, when you see all those red clouds, right?
Yeah.
When the red clouds are out on your indicator, you got to be scrappy.
And you got to be able to be aggressive, and you got to make moves to stay alive.
Yeah.
And you have to be, that was the reason I did that, because it was so emotional for me. I needed to remove the emotion and just have the signal given so that I can make the proper choice based on the signal versus incorporating all of my thoughts and feelings and emotions, or else you're not going to manage it properly. Because at some point in time, you might do it right for a little bit. At some point in time, you make one wrong decision. And this is not the too big to fail industry. You make one wrong decision, you're gone.
Yeah.
There's no mercy. You are gone. You're not prepared for the halving. You're not prepared for continuous difficulty adjustments. See ya. Thanks for contributing. I'll buy your miners at liquidation price.
You're not wrong at all.
Thank you. Come again.
I bought many miners and many different
Ruthless
things at liquidation
ruthless
price,
industry.
right?
Ruthless industry. However, I do believe the people who make it through, like yourself, because you've learned from your failures, those people who are smart and are able to do that, you are going to be. There's just going to be so much profit that it's not even fathomable, because price is going to go so far above your cost, and the premium is going to be substantial.
That's definitely how it usually is during when we really get into these huge bull market cycles. I mean, historically, and then when the red clouds are out, it's very squeezed, but you got to make sure you can stay above.
I'm
the cost.
talking about premiums like BFV premium usually is around like 400%. So you get to like a 400%. That premium. You want to be locking in all of your hard work. You want to secure that proof of work and turn it back into cash and wait for the discounts to come. Deploy the cash.
That's the toughest part, man. That is the toughest part. Is like when you're in that euphoria and everything is getting priced in and the market is accelerating. You got to be able to set aside some capital in USD or whatever to be able to redeploy when the discount window inevitably comes.
Yeah, it's kind of anti-maxi mindset, but it's a business, and that's why I went with an algorithm, because you can't run a business based on emotion and mindsets. It needs to be well thought out.
Yeah.
But what's coming are premiums that we've never seen before. The monetization of Bitcoin through the strategic reserve, funneling down like we talked before. We are now moving into the suddenly part. This is S-curve adoption. We are accelerating into adoption, and as we move up that S-curve, Bitcoin will not care about cost of production, and the people who are buying it will not care that they're paying a premium, because at that point it becomes a game of absolute digital scarcity. At that point it becomes a game of, if I don't get my hands on this, I might not ever get my hands on this. And I think that's why what we see right now in the United States kind of telegraphing what we're going to do. You think Russia and China and India and the Middle East are not stacking Bitcoin right now? Of course they're stacking Bitcoin right now. It's people like you and me who've been in for a while and see 100,000 and are like, man, this could change my life. This could, and you start getting tempted by these big numbers on the screen. But who's buying from you? The reason the price goes up is because the market's trying to convince you to let go. The higher the price goes, the more they're trying to convince you.
That's an interesting quote.
They're going to come after you with $1 million Bitcoin, and it's going to come much faster than people understand.
Yeah.